Hello, everybody, and welcome. Man, I haven't seen you since 2020. Welcome to 2021, folks. I hope people are hydrating, staying warm, staying safe, and washing your hands. And of course, it looks like people have been like upping their beauty game. Look at this. Everyone coming in with nice hair, nice makeup. And here I'm like, hey, I put on a shirt. Good job, me.
You did a great job.
How many times have you used that haven't seen you since 2020 joke?
Always. I am going to beat this horse until it is a fine, nice hamburger meat, nice hamburger meat.
Is it a hamburger if it's made from horse?
Isn't just like hamburger any animal ground up? Isn't that the definition of a hamburger? Is just anything that is ground up?
No, definitely not.
Hamburger it's made of ham. Beef. Hamburgers are specifically made of ham. Everyone knows that.
No.
Wait, hold on.
Hold on. She's the traitor this episode. I just want to be clear on this. She drew the traitor card before the show began. Hamburger is definitely beef. Language is weird. Who knows? But like if it's that's why it's a ground turkey burger, or like ground sausage, not just sausage hamburger. You get what I mean?
But it can still be a burger. A burger is still can be different types of meat.
Yeah, like hold on. I just thought hamburger just referred to whatever meat ground up into a paste. Okay, we learn more every day.
I mean, it probably depends on where you come from.
Perhaps.
I will tell you, I had beer burgers before, which is the rar, not the drink. I had beer burgers before.
So you're going to beat this horse until it's into a fine IKEA meatball. Because IKEA meatballs are made of...
IKEA meat.
I like that, yeah.
45% horse meat, so...
Oh, but yes. So, Derek, your hair is looking fabulous today. What have you been up to these past, 3 weeks?
Well, for one, I figured new year, new hair. Might as well actually stop being lazy and get back to the hair that I, used to care about and maintain when we actually saw people in real life. But I think it's been 2 years, 2.5 years since I dyed it. So it was nice to finally kind of get back in the saddle, the purple saddle, as it were. And aside from that, I've just been playing Cyberpunk and having really conflicted feelings about it, where I love individual scenes, and then the game kind of does this weird thing where it doesn't, I don't know, it's less than the sum of its parts. It's a very conflicted feeling playing it.
Well, I mean, are you still you're saying it's kind of your own little
dirty
sin, I love Cyberpunk, but I hate it so much. Is that what you're going?
It's more, it's one of those, it's many of the things that I love, where I can't stop playing it, but I also can't stop complaining about it.
I know that feel.
Yeah. So that's basically it. It was the running joke was that since we can't go on a vacation anywhere, my wife and I took a stirring vacation to picturesque Night City, where we just scheduled a week off, and we ordered a ton of horrible, gross, artificial snacks and groceries, and we just kind of sat in and were lazy as hell and just ran around Night City. And now my character just hacks people through walls and turns off the brains of everyone in a building, and then just kind of walks around and picks up all the stuff. It's a very weird mix. The game absolutely does have really amazing little gems in it, but I don't know. I think I was, had built up something more, and that's even before we get into all of the controversy surrounding its production and execution.
Okay. Well, then, moving on, Emma, I heard you also are exploring the world outside while sitting at your computer, right?
Yeah, pretty much the same as what Derek said over the holidays. Can't go anywhere. So instead, Phil and I went to World of Warcraft. And same thing. I love to hate it, just going around there, way into the weeds of the Pokemon game. I've talked about multiple times before the battle pets in World of Warcraft, its own little system. and just combing through the interwebs for all of the secrets of how to get those super rare pets and just doing absolutely mind-numbing things. I don't know what's happened, but it's like, okay, if I sit here and I press this button 10,000 times, I have a chance to get this very rare battle pet. So yeah, it's a rabbit hole.
But the important thing is that you are getting the pets, and that's really all you really need in life.
I'm getting some of the pets, yes. I'm happy about that. But sad about the ones that I don't yet have. I'm never satisfied.
Never satisfied. It's okay. It's an endless goal.
Yeah.
And then,
great.
yeah. Isabella, what have you been up to? You are looking gorgeous, by the way. Compliments, everyone.
I didn't get to finish my makeup because I forgot what time was earlier today. So I look like the last Halloween costume left at Target on the bin. Yeah, I was like actually really excited to come on today, and then that went away real fast, and now I'm just here. This week I slept a bunch and doom scrolled a bunch, and my friends and I were supposed to get together to play a game this week, and then everybody canceled. So it's been great. This week's been great. Feel really good about it.
If we need to schedule a game just amongst ourselves to get your spirits back up, Isabella, I am more than happy to do so.
Everything is just great. Everything's great. Great.
Okay. Hold on. Let me give you a digital hug right here. Give me a second. Digital hug for you. I understand that. But no, I mean, sleep is super important. Like if you can get it, during these fun times. Welcome to 2021. But I guess for me, what I've basically been doing is binge watching and getting my money's worth off of Disney Plus before I cancel it again. Just watching The Mandalorian, Rebels, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. And also rereading. If you guys ever are a big, I guess I was like, oh, if you're ever really into fantasy and stuff and meta things, Spelled Swords and Stealth series, like a book series by Drew Haynes, is really good if you like the idea of NPC characters figuring out that they are NPC characters in this world and what they're doing, and like understanding like, hey, why are these people adventurers so weird, and why does the world work for them in this way?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, Bonsai. Did you really like Reboot?
Yes. Wait, Reboot? Whoa.
As a kid.
You're speaking my language. Oh
well,
my
apparently
gosh.
you need to go read this novel series, because anytime anyone's like, yeah, you get to play you get the perspective of the NPCs in the story, and I'm like, you mean like in Reboot, kinda?
I love Reboot. That was one of my favorite. I watched all through the series, even when they, no spoilers, but when they went back after years and he was lost in the ether.
I think it's old enough now that we can spoil it.
Don't spoil it. I haven't watched it all yet.
I also went on the IMAX 3D ride at my local GameWorks, and I got to ride and battle while in the Reboot universe.
They had a Reboot ride?
Yeah, they had for GameWorks. It was an IMAX thing, and you got to sit on a hydrolyphic thing with sprays and stuff.
I want
it was
that so bad.
And then you got to go.
That sounds like some sort of Gallagher Reboot crossover event.
That sounds amazing. They always, no matter what the thing is, they squirt you with water, and it's like a pirate ship, and they squirt you with water. Reboot, they squirt you with water. It's 5D or whatever. Yeah,
they actually did squirt you with water. There was just always you slap into some digital game where you're swimming, and they're like, water, wind.
That's the one tool they have. They're gonna use it.
Oh boy.
But yeah, if you guys haven't, GameWorks on Guam, when it was still working, was the best arcade everywhere. So I don't care.
When it was still games working?
When the games are still working. It's totally shut down, by the way, now. It got so ill maintained, but my memories still have that place. It's awesome before it basically got never repaired, and nobody invested any money in that arcade. So that's just a sore point. We don't have to go over that. But on fun news, if you guys want to go ahead and listen up, what you have in store is the new D&D adventure book that we were speculating about has been announced, and guess what it is? It's not about the desert where magic doesn't exist at all. No, but it's actually a fun series called a collection of 17 adventures built around like Candlekeep. So Candlekeep, if you guys don't know, is like this huge library of mythic adventure inside this, in like basically in the realm of Dungeons and Dragons. And it's like you go in, and the whole idea of it is a bunch of one shots that are like, you know, short, between 1 to 4 hours, by very different authors who I will highlight later on. But the whole idea is that you are adventurers going in and researching and reading about all of these adventures that are taking place. And as you read, the story and adventure unfolds. So it's a very, very cool idea. The retail cost is about $45 with a fancy alternative cover for local game stores. And then the exciting thing is that some of the names that I kind of want to include, because like there's a vast, like, you know, like WotC basically has like got a diverse collection of authors, and like even I believe some of the other members here are familiar with Gamey Barber, which was like,
I think Graham.
Oh, Graham. Sorry,
I
I am so sorry. I get names are hard sometimes. Graham Barber. So was criticized WotC during recent concerns about race in D&D. That's one of the bigger names that came up. Daniel Kwan, co-host of Asian Represents. Another one.
Interesting series where they've been reading through a lot of like old D&D books that are about Asian settings. Like they've been reading through Karatur. They were reading Al-Qadim. They read LFFR. So that, you know, they've been doing a lot of kind of work trying to break down some of the tropes and cliches and kind of harmful stereotypes that have crept into gaming, you know, all throughout its history.
Yes. And then also another one, Keena Shaw, if I read that name correctly, is Keena Shaw is the co-curator of Tabletop RPG Safety Tools Toolbook. So that's a very important thing to note. What are the comments that you have for some of the folks? Does any other names like pop out at you all?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to interview Kiana Shaw for Ludology, and we got to talk about the TTRPG Safety Toolbook. Just this list of people in general is amazing, and I think it's really cool, both that they're, you know, looking to a more diverse group of people to write about the stories and to do one-shots too. So this is very much something that anyone can dive into, right? Just you have some time, 2 to 4 hours, play a one-shot, right? It's not something that's out there, like very specific or only certain people want to have. It's just a very handy, useful tool for anyone. Even if your friends aren't into RPGs or haven't done RPGs before, right? You have this book of things like, hey, let's do a role-playing game. So I think it's really cool making it kind of fun and accessible for people.
Yeah, I think this is a really good thing overall. One is I like the fact that they have an alternative cover for local game stores to kind of encourage people to patronize their local game stores, because, you know, 2020 was a really hard time for a lot of gaming stores. How many times can I say local game store? And I think that also having it be the short one-shots by diverse writers kind of serves two purposes. One is that it introduces people who are not wanting to get into like the full lore into something that would help them introduce. But then it also takes older players, and not like age chronologically older players, but players that have been playing D&D for a really long time, and introduces them very easily to new diverse voices. Because I think that a lot of the problem is that some older players, they stick with kind of their one kind of thing. And it's really hard to kind of introduce them to younger, non-chronologically, newer to the genre, newer to the field, voices. And so I think that this is twofold. It's a really great idea, and this is the perfect timing for something like this because of the fact that WotC has had a lot of criticism over the years, and this actually looks like what WotC is doing something about that. So
it also seems like the premise of the book is actually, we don't have it yet, but it could be pretty clever because it seems like all these adventures are related to some book that's from the library. So, it seems like you might just be able to sneak these into your game just by having those books show up around where your existing party is adventuring. And then you just can kind of take a break and go do something shorter.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was definitely something I was thinking about when I saw this, was this idea that it doesn't have to be even a one-shot. You can very much incorporate one-shot into an ongoing campaign. So you don't even have to stop whatever it is that you're already doing.
Yep. But I think that a lot of times when a book of one-shots comes out, because like this is something we talked about briefly before the stream, is that, if you're new to D&D 5th edition, you might not be familiar with some of these collections of one-shots that have come out. Because 5th edition has largely been focused on either presenting like this kind of larger campaign that you play through, like a storyline event for the year, or they've released a couple of those like collections of some classic adventures that have been rewritten for 5th. There was like the Tales of the Yawning Portal and stuff like that. They were like, those weren't one shots, but they were short-ish adventures. But those were still like you kind of had to go do the adventure necessarily. But even historically, 3rd edition and 4th edition had books that were just, here's some one shots, make of it what you will. But I don't remember any of those having a theme that might be as easy as this to kind of sneak into something you're already doing. So, like, to me, again, I don't usually care about Forgotten Realms lore, but I think this is actually a pretty subtle way to sneak some of that lore into your game and use Candlekeep without the whole book having to be about Candlekeep, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's pretty slick. I hope it works out that way. And it'll be real useful to have a collection of 17 one-ish shot adventures that you can just deploy as needed.
All right. Very, very, very cool. But yeah, we'll have to just wait and see how it all looks. Speaking about waiting and seeing how things look, Isabella, what's in the news on your end?
So Matt Colville from MCDM, which is very hard for me to say, I don't know why, is releasing a D&D magazine called Arcadia. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, I lived on army bases, and in army bases, there are these things called the commissary, which is kind of like a Walmart-ish for military people, where you can like go and buy everything that you need and go shopping and stuff like that. And no matter where you're living kind of across the world, they'll always sort of import things from America to kind of help you feel like, you're still in America no matter where you are. And one of my favorite things to do when I was a kid was to buy magazines. They had the commissary that I lived in that was in South Korea had this huge section of magazines. And what I did as a kid was I would buy things like heavy metal magazines, which I should not have been buying whatsoever. And also Dungeon Magazine, Nintendo Direct. I would buy all of those magazines. And then, like a true stupid kid, I would cut out all the pictures, not read any of the articles because reading is for losers. And then I would post up all the cool pictures of monsters and creatures and like women with massive boobs and armor. And I would just post those up all around the wall. And I miss those days because they were really formative for a baby Isabella. And where I'm going with this story that like everybody is like, where's this going? Please shut up. Is that they're bringing back that kind of style of magazines, although print magazine is kind of going out of the way, but they're bringing it back to a PDF source. So it's a really cool way. What I love about all those old magazines is that it was a really awesome way of introducing yourself to new artists. The cover art of those magazines was always a really cool, full color way of introducing yourself to some of like the biggest names in fantasy art. And I would love for us to get back to having big, huge, full color portraits of like who's the Frazetta of our time and stuff like that. If you know anything about Frank Frazetta. Anyway, So you can go onto the Patreon. This is in the style, Arcadia Magazine is in the style of the Dungeon Magazine. There'll be some really great high quality cover art and interior art. And then also articles written inside of it, much like the style of Dungeon Magazine, that is relevant to playing the game. And I think this is a really great way of introducing people casually into the 5th edition, into new creatures, into new dungeons and things like that, which isn't sort of like as extensive as sitting down, reading a $45 or $60 book and investing into that. It's just a really kind of casual conversational style way of introducing yourself, not only to great writers, but also to great artists as well. And so the first issue includes a short adventure for 5th level characters, a sorcerer subclass, rules for mounts, and stats for 2 monsters as well. And I think what they're doing, I watched the video, but I was so distracted by this man's hair. Matt Colville, yep. Who I don't know anything about him. I'll be very honest with you. He's not on my radar. He's not in my, I'm sure, but how Derek sounded talking about him, that he's like actually somebody that's probably really big in the industry. But he has the most luscious hair I have seen. And I was very jealous of it, because I feel like what men do is like, I spend like 9 hours on my hair, deep conditioning, detangling, taking care of my split ends. And then I ask a man, how do you have such luscious hair? And what do they always say? Oh, I just like spit in my hand and just ran my hands through it.
I use all-in-one shampoo.
Yeah,
that's what I use.
use the
all-in-one.
I use body wash on my hair, and it's just, it does whatever it does. And I'm just always like, how? And so, not to put that on this man, I'm sure Matt has a very long regimen of hair products and everything like that.
That's
but
what
I'm
still
still
like those hair tips.
Isabella, based on your very personal story through your past and your hair trauma,
we went through a lot. We went through a lot.
This headline to work through a lot of personal issues.
Yeah. Clearly, I'm dealing with a lot of trauma today. Yeah.
Matt has long had hair that the viewers of his YouTube, because Matt kind of came to prominence because he's a video game designer who did a series of YouTube videos that basically boiled down to, I'm going to teach you in 10 minutes how to go run D&D for your friends if you've never played it before. And he just did a whole series of videos that grew from that, and he did a fantastic job with those. And then he had a big Kickstarter that funded a bunch of different stuff, including like, some rule supplements they're going to put out, and a live stream they were going to do, and all that kind of stuff. But his hair has kind of long been a comment, or a thing of to comment on with his viewers. But also now in a pandemic time, when you can't get the haircut, it has now become like long, flowing, luscious locks.
Luscious,
so very luscious.
A new level.
To just do the intro of just doing this.
Yeah.
And so then welcome.
The really kind of intriguing thing about this that I like is why I recommend people watch the video, in addition to enjoying his hair, is just the approach that, he's pretty honest with of, we thought it would be a cool idea. Like for exactly the same reasons kind of that you mentioned it. Like they miss the old magazine and they want that feeling back. And they're not wizards. They're not publishing an official licensed dungeon magazine or anything like that. They're just kind of creating the thing that they kind of remember it being. And they're reaching out to new creators and trying to give people a shot. And, the video, I think, does a good job of introducing the authors, and then Matt just laying out that they're going to experiment and they're going to do 3 issues. And then they're going to ask their patrons on Patreon, like, how did that work? What should we do? And then they're going to pause and readjust. So it's pretty cool. If you want more regular, smaller D&D content, check that out.
There's so much that could be done with this as well, I think. I think that one of the things that I missed from the older magazines is that there was like sections where you could ask people questions. You could ask dungeon masters to help you with the game. And there was like Q&As and interviews and things like that. And like, I would love for that to come back into outside of my normal D&D discourse, which is just sort of like, who can yell the loudest on Twitter? And so I think that having this kind of like a publication is a really, really great idea. And it seems like it's really, it's really a labor of love. It's an homage to the things of our youth. So I think that this is really
He did specifically call out the covers, that he loved the covers and the art the same way you did. So like, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, Isabella. You may
is it how he gets his hair to look that luscious?
No, actually,
it's the only secret I want to know.
It's much more personal. You may not have noticed, but we have a publication of our own right here called TableTakes. So if we want to do Q&A and interviews and stuff like that on D&D, we're allowed to do that.
Oh,
I'll consider it. It sounds suspect, but
no, but
yeah, but it's like it's different though, you know, because you can't take TableTakes into the bathroom with you, you know, which is where you read a magazine.
I really don't want to poll how many of our viewers are in the bathroom right now.
No,
I think we will get an answer we don't want. So anyway,
I mean, don't ever ask me sometimes when I'm watching streams. Then I'm like, hi, how are you guys doing? Anywho, so on that note, it does look, if you guys just look at it, the cover art for it looks amazing. And if you are a little Isabella in heart, you can print it out and then cut and paste it on your wall as well. So that's something you can kind of look forward to.
Yeah, blow all of your parents' ink cartridges. That's exactly what my parents love to do.
Best. All right. Or you could get a laser cutter and then you just laser the wood or something, like get very high tech. Anywho, on another note, that we're going to go ahead from a awesome news, we're going to go change up the tone to something that should have been awesome that turned into a, well, I don't know, should we be surprised or not? Emma, you tell us about it.
Sure. So this is kind of tough thing to talk about. We don't want to dwell on it, but I think it's very important to bring these things up so we continue to hold platforms like Twitch accountable. The PogChamp emote, which is the face of Ryan Gutex Gutierrez, was removed from Twitch after Gutierrez called for further civil unrest after storming of the Capitol. And he has previously been suspended over political issues and right-wing conspiracies. So yay, Ryan Gutierrez is gone. However, what Twitch decided to do with their PogChamp emote, which Twitch monetizes, is they decided to select a rotating cast of people to replace this emote, including Critical Bard, a queer Black streamer, who immediately became a target for being surfaced in this way because Twitch does not have in place the tools to protect Black creators. This is an ongoing problem and something that they have not done sufficient work to protect people from these attacks. So Critical Bard's content was clipped and used by white supremacists. Critical Bard had to go into lockdown mode and have subscribers only on Twitch streams. And this is a thing that we need to continue to pressure Twitch and just any other organizations like, hey, racism is real and continues to happen. This harassment has happened to other people who are surfaced. So Twitch can't just put these people out there publicly and not defend them and make money off them, right? So I just think it's really important to continue to surface this stuff and talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, it's not going to get fixed.
Just highlighting some of these folks is not enough. You know, Twitch, the community in general, but you know, Twitch in specific here. If we're going to try to bring attention to folks who are normally marginalized or who are usually the target of hate, we also have to then back it up and protect them when they are given that notoriety, or they're just going to get hate.
Yeah, and we see this too, you know, not just because we stream on Twitch, but because Critical Bard is a part of our community as a tabletop role-playing game creator and content creator. So this is happening right here in our community, and it's someone that we need to stand up for and protect.
Could I say a couple of things? So one of the things that I think is really indicative of this is that Twitch doesn't have enough people of color, and it's not just Black people that this has happened to. It's queer people, it's trans people, it's marginalized groups as well. But Twitch doesn't have enough people that are working in the back end to be able to understand these kinds of issues. So for me, the way that I took this was that they knew that they had a really dangerous character who this Ryan guy, who thankfully I was not in his fandom and I was only aware of him peripherally. He had been doing this for a really long time. And for me, for Twitch to put people of color in the place of somebody who had been courting this community, how could you not know that this person would have been a target for that community's ire and for their resentment, their hate? Yeah. If you know anything about the internet, you know that this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And Twitch was trying to put a Band-Aid on top of an issue of which was caused really largely by their own malaise and their own resistance to doing anything because of the fact that Twitch thinks that, like, oh, if they can just not engage, then they become apolitical, or that they have an apolitical stance. But the internet is not an apolitical sort of a place. There's always going to be politics. And by the nature of our different ethnicities, backgrounds, sexualities, genders, we live in it is politicized already. And another thing is that we cannot build these communities because I've had several conversations with other Twitch streamers over the weekend and over the week, because there was also a thing in the horror community as well. Another streamer who had some very spicy hot takes to say about what had happened in the Capitol. And we cannot be building stronger, safer communities. I guarantee you that Black people, people of color, queer people saw what happened to Critical Bard, and it discouraged them from starting their own channels. So Twitch cannot then go and say, well, we're not seeing people of color, we're not seeing people try out Twitch, where we can't amplify those voices. You do not build up the safety measures. And everybody knows how the internet works, and everybody has been on the internet for the past 10 years. We all survived the great Gamergate wars. Okay. So like this to me was just handled in such a way that was disappointing, but not surprising. I'm not surprised by any of the way that this happened or this went down. I'm just disappointed because it just feels like this is even more indicative that structurally behind what we see on screen, Twitch's organizational structure does not have enough people of color in positions of power to be able to make the decisions that would have prevented this in the first place. So that's what I wanted to say.
I mean, I think that's just it's a good expression of like the fact that if you don't have diversity in kind of all levels of execution and decision making, it is going to be difficult for you to respond appropriately and be able to understand how to deal with this stuff. And you're just going to end up repeating these mistakes or exacerbating them or creating a new one and stumbling into a new problem. So
over and over again,
we got to fix things from the ground up.
Yeah. And I don't think we could add anything else more that like Isabella hasn't already stated. And, but we have to, that's all the thing is. The bigger point is, yes, we acknowledge that there is a back end problem to this, but we want you to do better, and we can do better as a community here. Yeah, that's all we need to know. But let's go ahead and switch this up. Now it's time for Grim Derek's Happy Time, where he talks about all the grim stuff that he's happy about. Tell us.
Well, if you like gross stuff, it's your time for Warhammer. Because we talked about how it was delayed before the holidays, but finally the special Nurglemas is here. And if you need to get your Death Guard Codex like I do, along with our new little Plague Furnace and our new little Bloat Boy and all of our cute little drippy gross guys, that is going up for pre-order tomorrow. So I'm certainly very excited about that.
Is 2021 the time for plague themed items?
100%.
Is it a little too on the nose, or okay? Just wondering.
We are going to get through this by embracing it head on. Is what we're going to do.
You shouldn't. You should not.
You should socially distance. You got to socially distance.
That's what the armies that are facing me are going to say. But the new codex is coming out. There's new data cards for it. There's a new combat patrol box for the Death Guard finally. So if you are keen to get into the army and you want a starting point, it finally has one, because the main Dark Imperium box has been out of print for quite a while. That has Typhus, 7 Plague Marines, a Biologus Putrefier, and 30 Poxwalkers. There's also a Chosen Mortarian box that has the 3 characters that were in Dark Imperium and haven't been available in print for a while. There's a new Lord of Virulence. There's this new Miasmic Malignifier. There's very 4th edition flashbacks here in how they name all these things for me. Plus, there's a big bundle that you can get that just has everything all together if you really want it. So I'm excited. I can't wait to actually get details on what's going to be in our new codex because people have been speculating for a while. And if you're a Death Guard fan, get ready tomorrow to click on pre-orders.
So when do we get the stream of Derek showing off all of the various different Warhammer accoutrements? Gotta show them, show and tell.
The background of every stream. But if we want to have a special moment where I'm like, and this little drippy boy does this, and this little drippy boy does that, I am happy to do that.
And painted too, right?
And painting.
And painted too, right?
Yep. All the ones up here are painted. This door over here leads to the closet of shame. So we don't open
it. We don't go in there.
Don't go in the closet of shame. All right. Well, let's go ahead and turn from that closet of shame to reading about the shamefulness and also things that we kind of can grow from, that we become more aware of. Emma, can you tell what Polygon was talking about in their review of what year were they reviewing?
So Polygon took a look at the impact of the events of 2020 on the tabletop industry. This is a pretty far-reaching article. I definitely recommend people read it to get a feel of the pulse of the year of 2020 and how it's affected our industry. It is a little tough. It's definitely a sad read for me as someone who's very much in the industry, and it's just very different than I or anyone else thought that this year was going to go. You know, usually we have a retrospective of the year in tabletop industry. It's all the conventions, it's all the new games that come out, it's where we're looking in the future, and this is just took a 90-degree turn, right, for everything. Read the article. There's a lot of great stuff in there. I'm going to touch briefly on a few things that are covered in there. So first of all, of course, the pandemic, right? And the tabletop gaming industry in particular has been hard hit by this. And it's something where we're very much used to going to game stores, going to conventions. It's an in-person thing that we all participate in. So obviously there's been a huge effect of that. 20% of game stores around the country have or will soon go out of business. So, you know, it hurts me to say that, but I think it's as people trying to move forward in our industry and see what it's going to look like this year, next year, and in the years beyond, it's important to see where we are now. So 3,000 to 4,000 independent game stores around the US at the start of 2020, and many turned to online sales and online events to survive. So I definitely want to call out just how hard these stores have worked to stay in business. And, you know, check out your local game store. How are they doing? Have you checked in with them recently? Are there things you can do to order or support? People are doing cafes and still doing food and a lot of stuff. So, you know, hoping to do whatever we can to support these companies and to see them continue in the future. Friday night Magic Online has been a great thing because I believe that they do get resources from that. So almost every week I do Friday night Magic. I log on to the Facebook page of Mox Boarding House and I connect with them, submit my stuff, and they send me resources. So WotC is actually supporting these local game stores when you go through and do the Friday night Magic on Magic the Gathering Arena. So yeah. There's companies have been supporting, game companies have been supporting these local game stores. Definitely, if you have the opportunity, look into it, see what you can do to help. But, you know, the sad fact of it is some of these stores are closing. Up next, of course, we have the BLM and equity awareness. We are seeing more companies actively pushing for diversity. Of course, it's only a drop in the bucket, and it's, you know, just hopefully the beginning of go for the rest of forever, right? This becoming part of an awareness that should have been there all along, but now people are starting to see it more and talk about it more. Magic last year removed 7 cards from the database, D&D was criticized over racist stereotypes and biological essentialism. And of course, our own Eric Lang has put in a lot of work to support these social causes over the past year, and was for that harassed until his Twitter account was suspended for targeted harassment. So a lot of people out there talking and trying to get the word out, being harassed and having pushback for it. So awareness is good, but obviously still a lot of work that we have to do on that front. Brexit, huge uncertainty for UK publishers and stores. And in my communities, I'm seeing a lot of publishers and Kickstarter creators shipping to the UK. So, you know, this is a huge board game market, and the Brexit and all the different taxes and things, uncertainty that's coming into play for people in the UK getting games. It's a crapshoot at this point. You know, no one really knows what's going on. For people in the UK creating games, trying to get them out to other places, we still don't exactly know where all of that's going to fall out. All we know is because of Brexit, a lot of people are scrambling. You know, they had said what their shipping is going to be to get games to the UK, and now the costs go up. You know, the independent publishers and small stores, they can't absorb those costs. They have such tough margins themselves, as we just had talked about. So
yeah, I feel doubly sympathetic for retail in the UK, because they're being hit with both COVID and Brexit at the same time. Like a double whammy of randomization is tough.
Yeah.
Then on the Kickstarter front, again, just ups and downs, and just what even it was 2020, a record year, 32% increase from 2019. So in this time when people can't go out and get games, they're on Kickstarter spending all their time and their money, because hope, I guess, you know, when you back something on Kickstarter, you're like, I can play this in the future with people, and you get a feeling, and there's the community there and people getting excited about games. So 233 million tabletop games leading other categories. So in Kickstarter, sometimes we forget it does other things, but tabletop more and more is becoming a huge force on Kickstarter, which has been good and bad for independent creators in particular. A lot of these people would go to conventions to spread the word about their game. A lot of these companies have struggled. But others have found new ways to connect with people. Discords have gotten playtest communities. So some people have been able to, in these tough times, establish online spaces and still continue to connect with people. Speaking of that, online play has exploded. You know, none of us were talking about Tabletop Simulator a year ago, and now it's on everyone's mind.
Everyone's computer, you mean?
On everyone's computer, exactly. So Paizo's publisher, Eric Mona, said the shift to online play has been accelerated by years. You know, online play is something that was kind of there in bits and pieces, but now so many more people, they know about the tools, they own the tools, they can do online play. So we're gonna probably have a little bit of a disagreement here. I think that when all this is over, people are going to flock away from online play, because so many people that I know, they put up with it. Designers grudgingly have learned the tools. They will have that knowledge and they'll still use the tools in some ways, but I don't think this is a permanent shift for most people to online play. I think people are going to have a backlash against it. You know, people are going to have trauma around everything associated with the pandemic, and they're like, I don't want to touch that anymore.
I don't think there's going to be quite, like, I don't think people are going to exodus out of it. I think very much that people flooded into online play because they had no other option. And the moment that we can go back to playing with each other in person, we are 100% going to go do that. But I also think that it raised the water level for online play. I think a lot of people like myself who never really wanted to mess with it, never really put the effort into it. Now we've taken the plunge and we found out that, yeah, we don't like it as much as playing in person, but no, it's not anywhere near as bad as we thought it was going to be. You know, probably now because we know some of the tools and how they work and stuff like that. But, you know, like over the holidays, you know, I decided to actually spend the time to get some of my friends together that I haven't played with in years and years and years, because they're just not local. And because I had been playing online with all my local friends, I'd gotten used to it. I saw some of the benefits of it. So I was like, well, why don't I try to get to play with some of my friends that I haven't played with in a very long time? And I don't want to leave that option in the past. Like, I'm going to carry that with me. Hopefully some of those friends are willing to keep playing online. So hopefully you have not warped their mind, Emma. But I expect that people playing online is going to drop off dramatically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do think that we will end up with more people still playing online than we had before the pandemic started.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other issues is accessibility.
Yes,
yeah.
Is that it also increases for people who are not physically able to get to places and play in person and things like that. And so I think that this has opened up a door for those people to be allowed in to play more games. And so I think Derek's right. Like, there'll be a drop, but I think there'll be more people than there was pre-pandemic. And I think then you'll start to see that sort of steadily climb.
Yeah. I think I just really want to see more tools, more environments to really embrace what are the good things about tabletop gaming, because I love video games. I played video games online with friends for years, multiplayer games, and that's still mostly what I play or what I gravitate online, because they have a lot of tools and systems built up to make them feel good. I think tabletop can embrace some of those things, and if they can just make it a more overall whole good positive experience for people, I think that there's still more work to be done there. But exactly like you said, Isabel, the accessibility. And like for my design groups, there's designers who weren't able to play test in person and not able to connect with other designers, and they can now. So I definitely think that there's a lot of positives there. And yeah, it's very much changed the industry for playing games, for pitching games, for everything. Last but not least, we have the unionization and labor events that happened in the tabletop industry. Kickstarter and Cards Against Humanity successfully unionized. The CEO of Wormwood resigned to allow the workers to direct the company. There's some iffiness around there, but we are seeing, the industry is growing. That is something we can say for sure. It's growing. It will continue to grow. I think it has orders of magnitudes and growing pains that are going to happen along with that as we start to become an industry like any other industry. In the past, we're just this spunky people in their basements, not a lot of money involved, but that is changing, and will continue to. We're going to have to go through all these things that any industry goes through, right? With labor and taking care of the workers and just making sure that, you can't just be like, we're small and spunky and we're just going to be all volunteers forever, right? At a certain point, you need to figure out how to take care of the people who make the stuff that you love.
Well, that is our recap. And to put it short and sweet to the point, Black Lives Matter, equality, awareness. Hey, be aware, change how you are, wash your hands. It's a pandemic. And then also Brexit issues, but online play, good thing, bad thing, will it go away? That's a good sum. But I, like Emma said, all of us highly encourage you to go ahead and read the Polygon article yourself, and then get more of an in-depth and make your own choices on that matter. Now, moving on, it is time for Bundle Boss.
Well, this time the Bundle Boss has brought a bundle of bundles, because we have about a month's worth of bundles to get through. So sit down, fasten up, and get ready to hopefully find something to get excited about. So on Humble Bundle, there is a huge bundle for 3D printer files. There's about 34 different minis in here. Pirate toads, weird orcs, savage forests. There's a toad cook that's really cute and whatnot. But if you have a 3D printer, if you know somebody who does, if you're kind of dabbling in it, or like me, none of those things really. I know a couple people with 3D printers, but it's more like I've been buying cheap 3D printer bundles so that when I eventually have one, I already have a library to print. That's how I'm justifying it. So anyway, you can get a whole bunch of minis for that, and kind of start to dip your toe into it and get pulled into that larger world. Bundle of Holding has a ton of bundles that are all kind of running concurrently. First, with 3 days left, there are 2 bundles for Traveler. If you're not familiar, Traveler is one of the original classic sci-fi RPG settings. Generally kind of like a life path, hard sci-fi. The classic story is that you were kind of playing like this merchant / mercenary who would travel through space trying to make an independent living on the fringe or edge of a great star empire kind of thing. It might, tap into some desires that some people have, but it's incredibly formative in the industry. And they have resurrected a bundle they had from 2015 that has a bunch of the core books, a lot of the setting detail, a bunch of supplementary materials and stuff like that. There's also a new bundle that has in the base collection is like 2 supplements, 7 adventures, and 8 double adventures. And then the bonus collection has 3 more supplements, 4 more adventures, 7 double adventures, 4 special supplements. So if you remember the 1981 stuff vaguely, if you played it, if you loved it, or if you kind of want to dig into the history of sci-fi RPGs, go grab both those bundles. You got 3 days. On kind of a bittersweet note, there is a bundle for the Changeling 20th anniversary. Almost, I think, all the PDFs that came out for it. This is the Jackie's Dreaming bundle. It has 9 days left. It is in honor of Jackie Casada, who recently passed away. And this bundle is to benefit their partner, Nikki Ria, and help take care of some of the, I believe, the healthcare bills that kind of were generated from that. So it has the Changeling core book. It has a jumpstart. It has a novel that they wrote. The level up has a player's guide, ready-made characters, some free holds, a fiction collection, stuff like that. Changeling is a very interesting and weird game. It's one of the World of Darkness games that maybe had the smallest audience, but the audience that it did have was incredibly passionate and dedicated to it. In a lot of ways, it was like the ray of sunshine in the World of Darkness, depending on your perspective of the game. So either way, it's gorgeous, and it goes for a good cause, so I recommend checking it out. And then the final bundle that we wanted to talk about on Bundle of Holding this week is for Troika, and it kind of bills itself as a psychedelic fantasy indie RPG kind of thing. So if you're familiar with the 1980s fighting fantasy books, this uses a somewhat similar system. You kind of roll 2d6. A lot of times you're rolling under and stuff like that. But the real appeal here is that it's an indie RPG that is just like wacky and gonzo and way out in left field. A lot of the stuff here is additional weird, strange backgrounds. Like I think there's like an orangutan acrobat, or like some sort of it's really hard to explain. You just kind of have to flip through it and see some of the bizarre backgrounds you might be randomly assigned as a quote unquote class. And a lot of the stuff for Troika really tailors the individual game to that particular setting by changing what weird classes you can get. Another kind of way to kind of demonstrate how weird Troika is that the starter set includes the adventure, So You've Been Thrown Down a Well. And that's a way to kind of kick it off. There's the higher level version is like a campaign called Acid Death Fantasy. There's an adventure called Fronds of Benevolence. So it should be pretty clear what kind of weird sci-fi / fantasy mix Troika likes to push itself towards. And if you're into that, or if you're into indie RPGs in general, this is a darling, and you should definitely check it out so you can kind of get your library stocked. And then finally, on Itch again, we have a bundle that benefits Jasper's Game Day to help raise both awareness and support for mental health and suicide prevention. And it's a very interesting bundle / game jam called Solo But Not Alone. So it's 87 different solo RPGs from 64 different creators. You're saving like 97% when you buy them all because it's a $10 bundle. But it's all just, some of them are very specifically actually about the theme, suicide prevention or depression, or kind of dealing with those issues. Some of them are not, so they're not all going to be heavy games. Our Innermost Thoughts, I think, was actually one game that was up in there. I think we talked about that on Kickstarter at one point. But if you want a huge collection of solo RPGs to experiment with, or you specifically want to support or kind of explore some of the themes of isolation and loneliness and suicide prevention, then definitely check that bundle out too.
All right, folks. So there we have it. All of the savings and also good things you could be doing right now if you go ahead and check out all of those various different humble bundles, and .io or each.ios. Now on to, of course, the fun part where Derek tells everybody as a Kickstarter queen which one they should go ahead and tell about and what project they're excited about. Kickstarter queen.
Well, I nominate Bonsai to go first and tell us what project are you excited about.
All right. So the Kickstarter that I'm excited about this week is called Auto Game Over, the most abstract game ever. It has 1 day left, Saturday, January 16th. This is a 2 to 4 player abstract game. It, at first glance, it does look like you remember those dragging games, the Suro, where you're supposed to like try to push another dragon off the board. It looks very similar, just like off a glance, but it plays completely differently. But it's very, very like simple and easy to get into on a real base.
Is it the most abstract game
Yeah,
ever?
that's a pretty big claim.
I will go ahead and note that kind of like that extra title kind of made me go, because it's not like it's not abstract in the sense of like, oh, these thoughts and things and thinking so out of your mind and make you mind blown. It is like, hey, I want to play, let's look at what clouds make circles and squares and loop-de-loops. So it isn't really the most abstract game ever. I kind of like demote points for Hufflepuff on that. But or no, I feel like this isn't a Hufflepuff. This is a Ravenclaw game. All right, never mind. I changed it. It's Ravenclaw. This is a Ravenclaw game, and I'm going to tell you that minus points for Ravenclaw for this. But it is. This is a Ravenclaw game.
Sure. I don't dispute.
And so the whole idea is that you randomly draw tiles and place them on the board to try to form different shapes, such as small circles, large circles, squares, and figure eights. And they're correlating pieces that you put down to get those, like basically to be like, haha, I made the shape. Each of those different shapes, of course, are worth different points. And then whoever has the most shapes of, like, whoever makes the most shapes out of all the squiggly lines wins. If that is interesting to you, of basically like, hey, this is, let's go ahead and sit down and try to puzzle out things to like put together. It is literally a very, very simple game that you can figure out the rules in like 3 short gifts. So if you guys want something easy to pick up and place down, and you like to looking at abstract lines into shapes, this is the game for you.
That is quite the hobby that you have described. If you like looking at abstract lines into shapes, then you might be a geometrist or a fan of this board game.
I mean, there are people that are. Have you ever seen that, like sand, sand,
Like a sand mandala or something like that?
The Zen gardens.
Sure.
There's also one that is like, you can buy a machine now that just has a metal ball in there and it makes shapes like over time.
And everyone remembers like the spirograph, right? You all had spirographs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Are you talking about the ones where you like put a bunch of markers in and then you just like spin it?
Well, I mean, I usually did one marker.
You just like keep going around and around.
Wait, you could only put one mark? Wait, why would you? No,
like, okay, and we'll go into this. You had a bunch of little gears. You could build a little machine with gears. Yeah. You're supposed to do one at a time. Maybe that was the part that you. Anyway, Isabella, why don't you tell us about a thing that you're excited about this week?
Okay. So with 2 days left, I've got the Tome of Mystical Tattoos for the 5th edition. If you are a person who works, I don't know, maybe a job where you have to, what's a corporate job where you have to take your shirt off a lot? Anyway, and you can't you can't have full body tattoos because of work. But but you would like your character to have tattoos, this is a 100 plus collection of magical tattoos that you can put onto your characters. I was very skeptical when I first opened up this one because of the fact that if you look at a lot of magical tattoos that have been used in the past, they've just been tattoos that have been stolen from different cultures and appropriated really inappropriately. And this is different. So basically the designs from this are very kind of simple, speaking of geometry, shapes and lines and curves that are more reminiscent of the typical shapes of like water, air, fire, those kinds of things versus just...
Were they all elements in balance and then the fire tattoos attacked?
That's an Avatar joke, and I get that, even though I've never seen Avatar, the first Air Master.
You should. You'd like it.
Everybody says that. Okay. Anyway, so I really like this book. It's got some really great designs on it. None of what I can see is taken from Pan-Pacific Islanders or African cultures or any of the other cultures that are usually stolen from magical tattoos. So this is a great idea. The book is really affordable. You can also download the PDF immediately. And I think that they're releasing more stuff over time. And so, yes, 2 days left, the Tome of Mystical Tattoos for the 5th edition.
Great.
And then what's up next is Happy Nation with 2 days left. Sorry, Sunday, January 17th. It's a creators from Denmark basically did an economic board game where it kind of plays like Life, but except of trying to find get the most money. Because remember, when you play Life, you're trying to get all the most money. This one is trying to balance your work life and also your happiness level. So it's like kind of like a reflection of what you would really like your life to be if the things fell in the right place. It's a competitive 2 to 5 player game, and it's broadly each player gets to play like a different person with assigned different jobs. So of course, if you want to get a loan to do anything, you have to go to the banker. One person's a banker. If you are sick, you got to go to the doctor. If you want to seek entertainment, you go to the entertainer. And then, house building, you need the builder and farmer. So each character, you don't just interact just by yourself. You have to balance your work life of like, hey, other players, like for example, if I'm the builder and I'm like, other players want like me to build them houses so they can be happy, or renovate their houses so they can be happy. But I have to balance like, how much time do I want to get dedicated to them? And then also earn that money so I can go ahead and have other life experiences and take a break and vacation for a little while so I can gain happiness. So each job, like I said, was meant to interact with every other player in its own way. In addition to game, like, you have various different money, food, housing, and entertainment. You have to like the only problem is time. You have a limited amount of time per your like in the game cycle. So you have about like 12 hours per day, and you have to like basically like negotiate what you're going to do with those 12 hours per day. That you're either not sleeping or something like that. So it really is like trying to play life the game of like, I really want to pursue the happiness. So in the end, the person who is the happiest person at the end of it has spent most of their lifetime pursuing happiness in a, being the happiness wins. So,
when I saw this, I felt like it was the appropriate kind of counterpoint to the Grim Derek or the World of Darkness and Games Workshop or 40K stuff that I have to bring every week. Felt like we needed, to present both sides.
But yeah, no, it's great. I just saw this and I was like, yes, we need a game where I need to pursue the most happiness right now, please. So if you want to go ahead and do that, if it brings you joy, get Happy Nation.
If it brings you joy, it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
So the last Kickstarter project that we wanted to talk about this week with 5 days left is Simon Presents the Animation Collection. And this is kind of a very weird project because it launched very, very quickly. I think it's only it launched the other day. It's only like lasting a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a collection of 3 licensed games. There's a Scooby-Doo, the board game, kind of cooperative experience where you're the Scooby Gang, uncovering the mystery. And then there's 2 games, Teen Titans Go Mayhem and Looney Tunes Mayhem. And at first, I assumed these were related to Dungeon Mayhem from WotC, but that absolutely does not appear to be the case.
Yeah.
They are their own kind of game. They both share the same system, so it sounds like theoretically they're either going to be easy to kind of pick up or maybe even mix and matchable. There's a lot about those 2 Mayhem games that really reminds me of Funkoverse, where it's like a super, super basic positioning kind of minion combat game kind of thing with licensed characters. And that, I suspect they're going to come out with some more licenses pretty rapidly. So it's very weird. Like, this seems like a very straightforward project. There's no stretch goals per se, but they are revealing new content for each of the games over the course of the days. So like Teen Titans Go, for example, starts off with, when they announced it was Robin, Starfire, Cyborg, who I will never get over the naming of, and Raven as the kind of 4 miniatures that are part of it. But they have further released the transforming boy, whose name I can't remember suddenly for some reason. They've released a miniature for him, but also a miniature for him in another form. I think they've announced some Nightwing miniatures. They've released several more stuff as part of the Kickstarter. Beast Boy, yes, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that would make a whole lot more sense than Transforming Child, which is stuck in my mind.
I was like, wait, I was trying to remember the name. Sorry.
One of those names that's so simple and straightforward, I can't remember it. But yeah, like it very much feels like these are meant to be very straightforward, very accessible games with very recognizable IPs. That you pick up because you either love the IP or because you know somebody who does, and you think this might provide them a game that you guys, or that both of you can play together. It is very weird that it's only a week. So I wonder how much of the project is just to kind of get word out as opposed to fundraise. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that does feel like it's not quite long enough for the word to really spread on it. But if you want pre-painted minis, I think there's a few other things as well, but those are Kickstarter exclusive. The retail versions will not have pre-painted minis, from what I understand. And for $160, you can get all 3 games, or there's individual tiers that allow you to pick 1 or 2 if you're a preference for it. But I know there are a lot of people out there who love Teen Titans Go, so I suspect this will be right up their alley. And, it's a very rare person in America who has not grown up on Scooby-Doo and Looney Tunes. So I think you'll be able to find a lot of people to connect to over these games.
Very, very cool. Well, that, folks, was TableTakes. But hey, wait. Don't go just yet, because here at Gen Con, we're not just TableTakes here. There's a whole slew of shows here. So go ahead and let me go ahead and tell you. Mondays, we got 6 p.m. Board Games with the Brothers Murph. Wednesday at 1:30 p.m., This Game Gets Dicey. And of course, join us on Friday to see all of our lovely faces here. 2 p.m. TableTakes. Keep in mind, all of these are Pacific times. And also, if you don't catch us live here on Twitch, don't worry, we're on YouTube. So don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. We are not doing giveaways right now. No, I'm just joking. But don't forget to smash that like button. Sorry, I shouldn't. But also, if you want to go ahead and communicate with us and join, of course, the Gen Con community, we also have an official Discord, a very official Discord where you can just hang out with your other fellow Gen Conians. I conned it. There you go. That's the name, Gen Conians. And so
you might have to workshop that one. We'll see.
No. It sounds good. It's perfect. But also, thank you guys. Jen Meeples. But also, thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Derek, Emma, and of course, Isabella for hanging out. And I hope you guys have a lovely evening. Remember, stay safe, wash your hands. You know, we had something happen twice and it should send through. Just gonna go ahead and say it. Just seal the deal. It got struck twice, need to seal the deal. Anywho, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Goodbye, everybody.